and dig in with Joel Rubin, who served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State during the Obama administration. Joel, thanks for joining us this morning. For the people at home, explain how critical and dangerous the situation is this morning in Niger for any Americans that might still be there.
Yeah, Brooke, it's great to be with you. The situation is very dangerous. This is a moment of a coup, essentially, where military rebels have taken power and pushed a democratically elected leader to the side who's still in the country. There are still attempts to try to restore him to power, but as each day passes, it makes it much, much harder. And so now, as you point out, with the State Department ordering a partial withdrawal, that means that we're going to have less staff of American diplomats on the ground, as well as the Defense Department now reducing cooperation with Niger's military because of the situation. So a very dangerous situation overall. There are protests on the ground as well in support of the government, probably being orchestrated by the coup leaders. And for Americans, there's not a lot of support there if something goes wrong. And so clearly it's not a place to spend free time right now for Americans.
Which brings me to my next question. The U.S. is still keeping some embassy staff in place. If it is as dangerous a situation as you are describing, why not evacuate everyone? And who would be staying behind at this point?
So it's not as if there is a current riots in the streets. Certainly the pictures are showing there are going to be protests and some moments of chaos, but it's not an outright revolution or a war underway right now. And so our embassy personnel, they're brave individuals. The American diplomats who serve overseas can hunker down, and they do have support from the Guard, from the Marines there as well. So staying in place is critical to maintaining ties, trying to find some diplomatic path forward, and of course, supporting the Americans who are, and the American businesses who are there. Remember, this was a new democracy, and there's a lot of investment from the American people as well as Americans themselves building ties with Niger.
Yeah, what do you think this does for our relationship in that region?
Yeah, it's a very difficult moment. There have been coups popping up now in the Sahel and in other parts of Africa as well. Military leaders sort of seeing a moment to seize power. And this makes it, first and foremost, from a security perspective, much more difficult. Niger was a core partner in the fight against Boko Haram and counterterrorism in that part of the world. And now this throws that into big question. And it's also very depressing for the African people to once again see a rollback of democratic aspirations that Niger symbolized, of a turning of the page more in a democratic direction. So it's a very hard moment. But it's happening, and the administration has to have a strategy for how to deal with the fact that there are military rollbacks happening right now against democratically elected governments.
Yeah, I was reading an article this morning that mentioned this coup really could only just further delay any development in that region.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to invest in a country when it's run by military dictators and it's deeply insecure politically. That doesn't mean they won't have money. That doesn't mean they won't sell arms or natural resources and try to build partnerships with Russia, for example, or China. And that's, of course, the big strategic fear of the United States, that those countries get a bigger toehold in Africa for their own extraction purposes. But when it comes to the people and the investment and economic development, it just makes it that much harder and that much insecure. And that's and investment freezes up. And this partnership with the U.S. people through our military partnership and opening of economic ties, that gets stopped. And that is, of course, is very unfortunate for the long term for Niger.
Joel, I have less than 30 seconds here, but I do want to go back to the Americans in Niger this morning. Do you expect to see more evacuations as the days go on?
I imagine there will be calls for Americans to begin to tell the embassy that they're there and to seek a process for getting evacuated. There are dual citizens certainly throughout the country that may be different, but certainly there are going to be calls for people to begin to let the embassy know that they want to leave.
Yeah, thinking about them this morning and certainly hoping for their safety in all of this. Joel Rubin, thanks so much. Appreciate your insight on this.
Thanks, bro.